Today at the State House in Trenton, New Jersey, I sat down with Governor Christie for a cable exclusive on what's past and what lies ahead. So this report has just come out.
Yeah.
It exonerates you completely. Do you feel exonerated?
Yeah, I do. But I also always knew that this is where it would end, because I knew from the beginning I didn't have anything to do with this and didn't know anything about it. And that's, you know, consolation, I think, for me and for others who support me, but it doesn't mean I'm not responsible. And ultimately, you know, I'm responsible for what people do on my watch.
And you know, already your critics have come out and they said this cost $1 million of taxpayer money. It was conducted by a law firm at which you have several friends. The chief investigator is a Giuliani guy, and Giuliani's been one of your most vocal defenders on Bridgegate. So why should the people trust this report? Well,
first of all, there's 6 former federal prosecutors who have worked a long time in their lives to develop reputation. And I don't think they throw away that reputation for me or anybody else by doing some slipshod job. In addition, you know, Randy Mastro, he works for Rudy. He's a registered Democrat. And after 7 years, Megan, as U.S. Attorney in New Jersey and nearly 5 years now as governor, there's not a law firm in this area that I don't have some relationships with. So in the end, let the work speak for itself.
You talk about the responsibility of running an office. And you know that people have accused you of using bully tactics or of being a bully yourself, something you've denied. But has this incident given you any pause about your own behavior?
No. I mean, because I think what people don't understand, or some don't want to understand, is I'm a really passionate guy, and I'm very direct. I am not one of these typical blow-dried, focus group tested, shellacked politicians. And some people love that and some people don't. But at core, Megan, this is who I am. And so if I tried to change that, I think people would see me as faking it. And I get accused of a lot of things. Faking it is not one of them, at least not yet.
But do you think there's any validity to the idea that the approach of a chief executive, either in a governor's office or at a corporation, that his approach infiltrates his office and the way his staff believe they can and should behave?
Sure, I think that's absolutely true. And what I'd say to you is that people look at a small sliver of a couple of YouTube moments that I've had over 4.5 years. I don't think anybody was calling me those names during Hurricane Sandy, when I was out every day on foot to victims of that crisis, consoling them, being compassionate, working with their families, hugging them. I think that goes through to my staff also. I think when staff sees me bring Democrat after Democrat into this room to craft deals that help make New Jersey a better state, that infiltrates my staff too. And if every once in a while they're more direct than they should be, that goes with the territory as well. But what I will tell you is, what we're talking about in this most recent incident isn't anything that I've ever displayed publicly or would ever condone. And anybody who thought that they were doing something that would make me happy didn't know me.
Did she ever tell you why she did it?
She never told me that she did it.
What do you make of the fact, obviously she lied to you and others lied to you, and they also did this thing. And, you know, when you read the emails, they sound like callous people who are drunk on their own power, or drunk on your power. Why should the American people trust that you are a good judge of the people you should surround yourself with as public servants?
That's a really good question, and I've asked myself that over the course of the last 11 weeks. If you look at the people that I've surrounded myself with over time, they're really exemplary, extraordinary people who have helped to produce results that the whole country has come to notice. And now it turns out that there were a couple of people who turned out to be a mistake, that I made a mistake in judging their judgment and their character. And I admit that mistake, and I'm sorry that it happened. But I can't, when I work with human beings, be held to a standard of perfection in them or in me. All I can say is I've learned from this. I'm going to be asking a lot more questions than I used to before, and maybe trust less unconditionally. And that's one of the things that I've clearly learned from this.
How does this relate, in your mind, to what we've seen with President Obama? Because you said you didn't know about Bridgegate. He said he didn't know about the IRS targeting conservatives. He didn't know about Fast and Furious. He didn't know about the DOJ targeting reporters. He didn't know that if you like your plan, you can keep it was untrue. And many of our viewers and the voters out there have said, A, I don't believe that, but B, if it's true, you have a responsibility to.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think a few things. First is, whether you're president of the United States or whether you're governor of a large state like I am, it's a fiction to believe that we know everything that's going on. I used to say in my town hall meetings all the time that the scariest thing about being governor was that 65,000 people had letterhead with my name on it, and I know what they were doing with it every day. But secondly, I think it's how you respond after you find out something's being done in your name that you believe is inconsistent with your values.
Do you see a contrast between how you handled your situation and the president handled those?
Well, what I can tell you is that I acted really decisively and directly the day I found out, and fired the people who were involved and separated from others who I felt, whose judgment I couldn't trust anymore. I don't know the particular circumstances of the president's relationship with the people that you talk about, but I think you're judged much more by the American people, and for me, by the people of New Jersey, by how you react to those circumstances and whether you're decisive and direct, or whether you look like you can't make a decision.
Do you think Bridget Ann Kelly will back up your story when she's under oath?
I have no idea, but all I can tell you is it's the truth. And certainly I think if she's telling the truth, she will, because we never had any conversations about this, ever.
So there's not going to be any emails, no phone records, no tape recordings that come out that establish you knew about this?
No, because I didn't.
Wow. Let me ask you this. You've gone through a lot, and we've all watched this unfold. What did you learn about yourself?
Well, I think you begin to learn how much stress you can take in a particular day. I think for me, I've done a lot of soul searching in the last 11 weeks about my life and about what do I really want to do with my life and what's really most important to me. I'm spending a lot more time at home than I did before that, by choice, because that's where I want to be. And I kind of put things, I think, into a little bit better priority order in the last 11 weeks.
Does that affect your willingness or your considerations about running for president? If you want to spend more time at home, it's not really consistent with going out on the road and running.
Well, I don't know that it's that inconsistent with it. And sometimes you bring home with you. But no, I don't think that portion of my reordering will affect in any way that decision-making process.
Has this made your family more willing to see you run, more supportive of a presidential run?
Oh, I don't think so. No.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how it would, because some of the frenzy around this has been a little overwhelming. But I think what it's done is give them a window into public life in a different way.
How have they been affected? I mean, you've got young kids still.
They've been very good. They're concerned about me. I mean, Super Bowl weekend, I went up to my 20-year-old son and put my arm around him, and I said, are you doing okay with all this? And he said, Dad, you have to stop. This is not the time where you're supposed to worry about us. This is the time we're supposed to worry about you.
Your one son came to you and said, did you do it?
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was really hard. It was really hard. And I said, of course I didn't. And he said, I didn't think you did that, but I had to ask you. That's the 20-year-old who's off at college, and in a lot of ways, the one who's been most engaged in all this. Andrew has read everything, watched everything, and calls me and comments on it. And I said, are things tough for you at school? He's at Princeton. And he said to me, no, it's really no different, Dad. They never liked you here anyway. So it's really no different for me.
There's been so much media coverage, and I wonder, because prior to this, you were a bit of a darling of the mainstream media, for a Republican anyway. Mm-hmm. Has this changed your view of the mainstream media? No.
I always had the same view. I mean, I always said to people that when I had a good day in the mainstream media, it wasn't real, and when I had a bad day in the mainstream media, it wasn't real. I mean, I understand that you can be the flavor of the month sometimes in a good way and the flavor of the month sometimes in a bad way, but I've always said to the folks in my party, we don't get anywhere complaining about it either. Mm-hmm. We need to just do our jobs.
Well, what did you think of the constant 24/7 media coverage of your scandal as a, yes, would-be presidential candidate, but sitting governor of New Jersey?
Yeah, well, listen, I think Jon Stewart said one night, I didn't realize he was President of the United States of New Jersey. You know, and I think that kind of encapsulates my thought.
But it's hurt you. I mean, in the polls, you've definitely fallen. You've fallen against Hillary Clinton in that hypothetical matchup.
Well, of course.
But you've also fallen just in terms of whether there was a Fox News poll out, I think, yesterday saying, is Chris Christie qualified to be president? Do you believe he'd make a good president? And 52% said no. 47% said Hillary Clinton would not make a good president either. But your numbers had fallen a lot since, you know, a couple months ago.
Well, of course.
So do you have too much baggage now to run for president?
Listen, that'll be for other people to judge. There's no baggage here because I didn't do anything. And that eventually will wash out, as it started to already. Because what the American people and the people in New Jersey really care about is, did you do it? And when they find out you didn't, I think what you're going to find is that they'll just say, okay.
And that is not all we talked about. Monday night, part 2 of my cable exclusive with Governor